Hello everyone, thank you for joining me on this video. My name is Omotoshodane Praise and I am the group leader for this project. And my partners are Emmanuel Caleb Adidayo, Seriki Babatunde Daud, and Adibiti Paul Oluwaseun. So, I will be showing you how an electronic voting machine can be designed, programmed, and used. We work on some set of codes and I will be showing you that very shortly. The aim of the EVM project is to revolutionize the traditional voting process by introducing a secure, efficient, and transparent electronic voting system. In the face of increasing demands for accessible and reliable voting methods, this project endeavors to design and implement an EVM that ensures the integrity of election while providing a user-friendly experience for voters. Now, moving into the MATLAB ID environment, okay, and down to the current folder, we have the voting list that contains the database of voters, that is voters' name and voters' ID, using an Excel database system. And due to this, more voters can be added without changing the main program. We also have the voting GUI.m, which contains the MATLAB code, as you can see on the screen. We also have the voting GUI.fig, which contains the demo software of the EVM using the MATLAB graphical user interface. So now, going through the MATLAB code, we assumed 5 candidates or parties are considered in the election. And then, for each party, there is a button available adjacent to its name, which when pressed, increases the vote count of that particular candidate or party by 1. Once the complete voting is finished, the results button can be used to display the results, which includes the total votes received by a particular party, along with their voting percentage. So now, for each party, we created a global variable which was declared and initialized. Okay. So going through the code, coming down to line 35 down to 42, we created global variables for each party, including the voter's name, voter's ID, and voter status. Now then, we created a callback function and updated the variables for each party when a voting button is pressed. Okay, now going down. Now then, we created a callback function and updated the variables for each party when a voting button is pressed. Okay, so now coming down to line 66 is a callback function created for party 1, which updates the variable whenever the voting button is pressed for party 1. So coming down is also the callback function created for party 2 voting button. Same with the party 3 down to the party 4 and party 5. Same process. We also created a callback function to display the election results by pressing the results button. Okay. So now going down to line 223 is where a callback function is created for the results button, whereby it determines and display the election results when the result button is pressed. And then finally, we also created a reset button, a callback function for the reset button, whereby it resets the voting results by clearing the previous data of the voting process. We also devised a calculation formula in the MATLAB code to determine the total voting percentage and also the voting percentage for each party. So coming down here to line 244 down to 250 is where the calculation formula are used to determine the total voting percentage and the voting percentage for each party. And by doing this, you can develop an electronic voting machine GUI in MATLAB. So now, if you run the code, a demo software for the EVM pops up and we can be able to carry out the voting process. So now I press the run. As you can see, a demo software for the EVM pops up. So let me show you an example of how it works. Assuming I vote for party 1, a face pops up which requires my voter's ID. So I input my voter's ID and OK. It says what? Thank you, John, for voting. So assuming I vote for party 3, it also requires what? A voter's ID. I input my voter's ID and OK. And it says what? Thank you, Tony, for voting. So assuming I vote for party 5, input my voter's ID and it says what? Thank you, Ari, for voting. So I vote for party 1 again, include my voter's ID, and it says what? Thank you, Doris, for voting. So, and so on and so forth, like that. So now, assuming I press the result button, as you can see, it shows the number of votes for each party and also the percentage total votes for each party. And also, it shows the number of voters that voted, including the voting percentage all round. So assuming I use the reset button, as you can see, it resets the voting process and clears the previous data. So there's also something you need to know. Assuming I vote for party 1 again, it says, thank you, John, for voting. And I vote for party 1 again using the same voter's ID, or I vote for any other party using the same voter's ID. It says what? You cannot give votes multiple times, which means that voters cannot be allowed to vote twice, either for the same party or for different party. So that's how an EVM can be used. Thank you all for joining this video. Have a nice day.